Hi, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. In today's video, we're going to be going over how to farm Deckathalon, specifically stages 1 through 5. Eventually, if people would want me to, I can do higher stages, but the reason why I always do 1 through 5 videos is because you're always going to chase the Deckathalon deck, which is the most sought after piece in my opinion from Deckathalon, other than like Stitch Gear. But for example, it's Decathlon, so you are going to be chasing this specific deck. Doesn't matter, you can use it on any school, but it specifically gives you 2 pips. I have made plentiful guides talking about how having a deck 5, doesn't matter what Decathlete deck it is, but just having a deck 5 gives you 2 pips. Very good for a lot of 1-round stuff, especially Scald Incendiate stuff, so you want to have this Decathlete deck. Now, since this video is tailored towards Decathlon, I'll go over the setup and everything like that, and like how to do the fights. So if you do enjoy this type of content, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. Join Discord. As always, there's about 1.3k members in the Discord. We're on that rise to 1.3, and I appreciate everyone that's subscribing. We're close to 5k. Hopefully, you can reach it by the end of the year. That's the goal, and I'll upload a lot more content if we do. So definitely subscribe, or even just leaving a comment. Leaving a comment does help out with the algorithm, and just especially even just liking the video. It helps out with the algorithm quite a lot more than people realize. So even just saying hi in the comments means a lot. So let's go over the setup. Now, your gear doesn't matter, as stated in every Decathlon, wear whatever gear. The only thing that quote unquote matters is if you use like a jewel, like a Make-Ass jewel, which we're not going to be specifically talking about in this video, or if you use a pet and your deck. Those are like the realistic things that matter. Now, ideally, in all my Decathlete or Decathlon videos, I always bring up using this pet. Just to keep it consistent, you want a pet that has Frozen Kraken, which is the main thing, right? And then a bunch of heals. You don't have to have these heals. If you want to have different, like other heals, you can go for it, right? If you want to have Life Bat or some weird stuff, go for it. But this is ideally what I want to prioritize. Unicorn, Fairy, Healing Current, and Sprite Queen. If you somehow get Sprite and Sprite Queen, that's okay too. It's not a big deal. And then the socket, you want to use Pigsy. If you don't want to use Pigsy, you can use a Brace Jewel, like a Make-Ass Brace. You can use Make-Ass D-Lands, stuff like that. Or you can even use one of the Make-Ass Jewels that give you a set shield, which I'm pretty sure you can farm for. So that's like another thing. But ideally, you just want Frozen Kraken and a bunch of heals. That's the whole premise. It doesn't have to be on an exclusive pet. It doesn't have to be on a specific pet. It can be on any pet, because you don't get the item cards or anything like that on it. So any form of this type of pet works. And then for the deck, we are using Darkmoor deck. Now, this is for a free-to-play setup, a more setup that's tailored towards people who don't even already have Decathlete decks. Because if I wanted to do that, I would have been like, guys, I have a Decathlon 10 deck for this video. But no, this is tailored towards people who are just starting out Decathlon and trying to figure out how to farm. Specifically, craft yourself a Darkmoor deck. The reason why we use Darkmoor decks instead of like other decks like Shabalba or like other decks in general, like Reaver, this gives you a square socket, which we're putting on HP, but you get extra sideboards. Now, the caveat is the other ones give you a little bit more HP. That's another thing, but the 4 extra sideboards are just so much better. So if you really want to, you can use like another deck that has a square socket. That's okay, but the extra sideboards carry a lot more than you realize. So go get yourself a Darkmoor deck, specifically a square socket, and you're going to be socketing on a health jewel, depending to whatever your school is. Just keep in mind that every school has different amount of HP pools on their square socket. So Death gets 650. I believe Life gets the highest square socket jewels, and like Storm and everyone else gets like lower health jewels. So if you want to do Decathlon, if you have this is like the one couple times that I'm always going to be like using a Death or a Life or any of like the other schools that have a high HP pool, even Ice, benefit from this because you get a higher square socket jewel. And that's why when I do these videos, I do it on my Death because it's a little bit in between. So there's that. But mainly, just get yourself a Darkmoor deck or any deck that has a square socket and put on some HP. So now that we've gone over the pet, the deck, what is actually in my setup, this is the deck that you want to build. Just literally copy it, take a picture, do whatever. We're using fairies for the fights whenever we need to, if we're like in a struggling point, and the fairies will help out quite a bit. Shields, because hey, it's Decathlon, you're gonna need shields. But to be fair, they also have Minotaur in their deck. They can stun you, they can use Minotaur. which is very annoying. So that's why we have weaknesses in case we just go based upon their pips. Decathalon is a little bit more harder to make a free-to-play setup because all these cards are from vendors, right? These are all stuff that you can get from a vendor. You can get these all from the library, the librarian, or you can go to the Arcanum and get the Stormlords and stuff like that. That's why it's a free-to-play setup. Now, if you have the ability to do so, I highly recommend that you take out at least 2 of these weaknesses, or maybe even just one of them, and put in a V-Plague. Now, I try my best to not include cards that are from Bazaar or like other spots, because they're very annoying to get. But for this Deckathalon, having V-Plague specifically on stage 5 for the middle fight will make it so much easier. But it's a little bit more difficult if you use these, which you guys will see later in this video. But like I said, if you can, take out 2 weaknesses and put in V-Plagues, but if you can't, have weaknesses. Usually for these videos, I don't advise that because I try to make it more free-to-play friendly, more Bazaar friendly, and stuff like that. But yeah, just be very careful on stage 5.2, and you guys will see like later on in this video. But that's the basic premise. You don't need to worry about your school pip or anything like that. You don't need to worry about your other gear. You just need to care about your deck and your pet. If you see this jewel cast in this fight, which is this may cast jewel that I have socked on my theme, it does cast sometimes, but I won't benefit from it because it does give me 10% outgoing damage to death. I'm not using death spells. You guys saw I'm using storm spells. Now, yes, you could make the argument, Almond, should I go farm for the triangle jewel that gives a storm outgoing damage? You can, but don't rely on it. It's not something that's going to cast very often, and I'm pretty sure from the stream it only casted like once or twice. So don't rely on it too heavily, and it's just something I have on every single character. Like, for example, my death has a death one, my storm has a storm one, my fire has a fire one, so forth. So don't rely on it too heavily. Also, huge shout out to Shabazz and Logan for helping me create these videos, because I wouldn't be able to make all my Deckathalon videos without them, and they usually help me out when it comes to making these strats for you guys to be able to showcase them. They're very good Deckathalon players. They know what they're doing. They've gone for leaderboards multiple times, so they know what they're doing when it comes to Deckathalon. So huge shout out to Logan and Shabazz for helping me make this video. But that's basically the setup. Enjoy the rest of the video, and yeah, that's basically it. So leave, like, subscribe, all type of stuff, and enjoy the whole run and my little, I guess you can say, like my little dialogue, I guess you could say, of me talking over all the fights. So enjoy the rest of the video. Get ready for dialogue Almond, where he just yaps while he talks over the fights for vid's sake. Okay, since we're not using the deck 10, we're gonna be using Darkmoor. Realistically, you can use Frozen Kraken on stage 1, but we're gonna be using Storm Shark just for the purpose of this video. Should probably like lower the audio or like the music a little bit, because I'll probably add my own music in post. Storm Shark, pretty straightforward, and I didn't fizzle because I got a special event point. That's 1.1 done. And then this one, as always, how it is with every single other video, use a hit, we'll cast the other. You have extra stuff in your deck, but you shouldn't be using those extra cards on stage 1, realistically. I don't like how I get heals early on, I'll be honest. Because whenever my pet heals me early on, it does not heal me in the later on stages. I've noticed that so often. Look, like, I mean, I'll take it, but I don't need it here. I generally don't. Let's crack in the one, or not crack it, let's use Storm Shark on you. Specifically the right one. You can hit the left one, but I always go for the newer mob. The kind of we're doing as a new player, if you're done with the pet just for it, you should probably do it for the pet and the deck, the 2-pip deck. Highly recommend. There we go. Stage 1.2 done. This one's an easy one too. It's just a lot of Storm Shark for like the first couple fights. And if you fizzle, it's not a big deal. You just Storm Shark again. That's all it is. For example, I fizzled. He's probably gonna hit me, but it's okay. Yeah. And then what? Is that a heal? Yeah, it is a heal. That's why healing pets are so good in Deckathalon, man. Like, they're good. They definitely are going to make the runs way more easier for you. Yes, I can Frozen Kraken, but in an ideal run, I would have used Storm Shark on that previous round. So if you want to stay with the Storm Shark, yes, you can Frozen Kraken. But for example, I fizzled. If I powered, I would have used the Storm Shark. It's optional. Like, if you really want to delay these like first fights and just stall till you can use Frozen Kraken and kill both of them, you can. But I'm not gonna do that in this purpose of this video. Like, if you have already a deck 5, deck 6, deck 7, you can do that. Like, it's you just sit there and pass, and that's literally what I do. But if you haven't, buy your deck 1, buy the treasure card display if you want to. It's up to you. And then treasure cards, there's none of these I would recommend buying. If you want to, you can, but it's not a big deal. But main thing is you buy your Decathlete deck, and make sure you have gold on yourself whenever you buy them. All right, let's start off stage 2 now. Same thing here, just use a shark. We just gotta pull it. You don't have to shield yet in these fights. There we go, we got a shark. Go. I've got a special event point, okay. Yeah, once you get all your special event points, then you're not going to be able to know ahead of time if you fizzle, but it's not a big deal. Like, you'll know if you fizzle. And this one's specific, you have to shield in this actual fight. So we need shield, and then we need Storm Shark. But when we use Storm Shark, we're going to be using Storm Shark specifically on the mob that we just fought. Because if we use on the left one, if it doesn't hit high end, it's more likely not going to kill. And I don't want to rely on RNG, so we're just going to kill the one on the right to keep it more consistent. And luckily, they didn't even hit us this round. Yeah, so like, it does 425 to 495. But what if it doesn't kill the left one? Then you're kind of chalked, right? So just kill the right one. Keep it consistent. And then he'll probably hit us. He'll use our shield. Not a big deal. If the pet heals us, the pet will heal us. And then we'll just use Frozen Kraken and just kill him. Fizzle, that's fine. Just Frozen Kraken and then pass. There we go. Stage 2.2 done. Now we have the boss of stage 2. This one, you're not going to be shielding in. Specifically, you're just going to be using Storm Shark again. And then using Frozen Kraken as well. So if for some reason, which more likely not, you're not going to kill, use Frozen Kraken. You just kind of have to like just take the damage realistically if he does hit you. We can use Storm Shark now. The reason why we don't wait around is because of the chance of me fizzling. So now if I did fizzle there, I can cast it again next round. Now if I just wait to use it with the Frozen Kraken, that's a little bit iffy. There's a Cyclops. It'll do a good amount of damage, but it's okay. 340. We get a heal? Yeah, we do. Okay. Sprites are good. Sprites are good. I'll heal some of it back. Not all of it, but some of it. Now, I could if I wanted to pass and, you know, get some health back if I really want to. Which isn't a bad thing, right? It isn't a bad thing if you want to do that. But for this specific video, I'm not going to be doing that. So we're just going to be using Frozen Kraken just to straight up just kill. And I still get 111 from that. And there you go, stage 2 done. Then after the fight, over here, talk to the vendor, get yourself your deck 2. And then if you want to buy these, I recommend just don't buying these realistically. You can get this from a vendor and you can get this from a vendor. Don't waste your runes, but just buy the decks. That's the most important part. And then now we're on stage 3 out of 5. Once we get to like 4 and 5, it'll be a little bit longer. But right here, same premise as that previous fight. Keep in mind, you do have extra cards, aka the fairies. So if I really do get into a bad situation, I can always use a fairy. Also, the thing is with stage 3 is some of these guys know stuns. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. So I didn't fizzle, thankfully. That's good. Trap, not a big deal. I do have 800 HP, which is a little bit risky. So what I might do, just so I can prepare myself for the next fight, because keep in mind, I do have some extra fairies as well. We do have like 4 different ones, or we have 5 in total in the deck. So in this premise, I'm just going to heal just to keep myself comfy for the next fight. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to do that just to keep myself comfy for the next fight. And we are carrying 5 fairies in the deck, right? Realistically, you're going to be using 2 100%, but like 3 are extra. So we're using that to our advantage. And you know, if a pet healed, of course I wouldn't have used the fairy right there, but it's just so it keeps me comfy for the next fights. That's it. Because the next fight we are just going to be sitting there and just shielding till we can Stormlord. Stormlord is going to be our friend in this next fight. Okay, so we just need to pull our shields. We can keep a fairy in case, but realistically we're just shield spamming till we can use Stormlord. That's the whole premise behind this fight. That's it. And just remember, they do have stun on this stage, so there is a possible chance of us getting stunned. I always forget to take this jewel off, but it is what it is. This doesn't benefit me in any sort of way because it is a decathlon where I'm using storm spells. So if you see this get cast, don't worry too much about it. But literally just shield spam. Now you could use frozen krakens on these guys, but you would still have to do a follow-up hit. So there's no real reason to use frozen krakens in this particular stage for 3.2. It's just more of a just kind of play it out and just sit here and shield. Fizzle, that's fine. And shield again. Yeah, they're just gonna keep spamming trolls, cyclopses, and then possibly a stun. Surprised they haven't used it yet. Pet gives us a heal. We love that. But that's something I can't rely on, right? So I was like, yes, I did use a fairy in the previous fight, but did it to basically give myself more leeway and not rely on my pet every single time, you know? And then shield one more time, and then that'll be 4 shields, and then I can just literally Stormlord this upcoming round. And just hopefully I don't get stunned. I mean, he does have a lot of pips. I'd rather have him hit with like Cyclops or something. Yeah, that works. Now the only downside is with me losing all my shields is if I do use Stormlord, and let's say I do fizzle, because it's very possible, right? I do leave myself wide open. So that's the only thing about this. But just gotta hope that you don't fizzle, realistically. But I didn't, thankfully. And that just kills them both. But yeah, you can use Frozen Kraken, etc. But keep in mind, if you do something like that, it requires you hitting both of them and as well, right? You have to do a follow-up hit because the Frozen Kraken isn't going to kill them. And then now we have this boss of stage 3. Yep, we have our shark. Literally, it's just going to be a shark Kraken combo. So shield into a shark, and then if you fizzle the shark, follow up with it again, and then just make sure you use Frozen Kraken. And this one's kind of like a straightforward one. It's the middle fights that are a little bit more iffy. That like actually have to make you think. See shark. Yep. Didn't fizzle, that's good. Trap, not a big deal. And then if I wanted to, like I said, I do, since I do have a power pip, I can heal, but I think I'm gonna wait till the next round to do something like that because of the fact is stage 4 and 5 are gonna be a little bit more scarier than stage 3. And stage 4 they do have minnow, so that's like another thing. So we're just gonna be using Frozen Kraken for the most part, just to finish this fight off. And there we go, stage 3 complete. And then buy your deck if you haven't. I already have all the decks, I'm pretty sure. And then these cards, I wouldn't recommend buying. Conviction you can get pretty easily. Soul Zappers, I know some people actually use these for niche things. If you want to buy this, go for it. And they're not sold from a vendor to my knowledge. But just remember, it is going to cost you some runes and some trolls. But that is up to you if you want to buy that. But just main thing is buy the deck, right? Now stage 4 is when it gets a little bit more annoying because of the fact is, like I said, stuns, and they do have minotaurs now. So if you get hit with a minotaur, you do take a lot of damage. So keep that in mind. But we are going to be using shark. We are going to be using Frozen Kraken again. So keep that in mind. We're not going to be using Zilla or like a Kraken or a Stormlord. We can discard and then try to pull for our shark. But we are going to be shielding as well in here if we need to. So that's a thing. Or we can weakness. So I'm going to weakness though. Just so I can play a little bit around my hand. Because you never know what they can do right here. So now I'm okay. Now that I know that he has like less pips, I don't have to worry about that Minotaur because it's going to cost him 5 pips. So yes, I could have shielded right there, but what if he used Minnow later on, you know? Then the shield would have been kind of useless. But we can kind of just pass. They're just going to be using was it Cyclops and Minnows and stuns. So there's that. But realistically, we still need to pull for our shark though. If we can find it. There's a shark. Okay, so we can use that here. I didn't fizzle, thankfully. And if my pet doesn't heal me, this is a good opportunity to also fairy if you need to. Like, yeah, he's not going to hit me. If he gets a power pip, he probably will. No, he didn't. So right here, since I'm low, my pet hasn't healed me, right? And the next fight is a double fight, and it's a little bit more risky. So for that reason, we are going to be using Fairy here. So we use Frozen Kraken to kill, and then we will be using Fairy to heal us. Now, of course, if your pet popped off, you already got health, you don't have to worry about using a Fairy. And luckily he didn't use Minotaur. That's just like the gamble you have to do with this Deckathalon. Is like, is he gonna Minnow? Is he not? Is he gonna Cyclops? And especially on the later stages, especially stage 5. So now we're on the middle stage of stage 4. The middle stage is a little bit more iffy. You are gonna be using Stormlord in this fight, but as well as you will be using Willcast on both of them. So this fight is a little bit more tedious. And as well as you have to hope that you don't get hit with a stun, you don't get hit with a minnow. Yeah, like they still have troll in their deck. They still have a Cyclops in their deck, so keep that in mind. But still, it is still a risky fight. But we're gonna be shielding twice. They both have 4 pips, so anything's possible right now. They could be using troll, they could be using Cyclops. So there's our first 2 shields. Luckily he did Cyclops. That is perfect. Ideally you would want them to waste their pips. Yes, you are going to be losing shields, but I'd rather lose shields than get hit with a minnow that just completely negates one of the shields. And pet's healing too, so that's good, right? That's why having healing pets in Deckathalon are just so nice. And then we can shield again, but before we do that, we also want to use Willcast Frozen Kraken on one of them. You will be using it on both of them eventually, but we'll start off with just using on the left guy, as well as we're going to shield. So it's already 3 shields that we've used. Yep. So since we did get hit with the stun right there, it's kind of iffy because now we can't really do anything, right? We can't weakness, we can't shield, and he does have a lot of pips. So there is a possible chance where you can actually get nuked, and who knows, this might be a perfect example of me getting nuked because he can minnow, he can use troll, he can use Cyclops, and there's nothing I can do, so I just have to pass. It's just the risks that you have to do with Deckathalon. Fizzle, that's okay, that's good, that's good. And now if he does minnow, it's not a big deal. He didn't minnow, that's good. So ideally, if I didn't get stunned right there, I would have used a shield. But since I did get stunned, I have to pass. But what we can do now is we can just use Stormlord. Now it is something risky. It is risky, but this whole Deckathalon is risky. So we're going to use Stormlord and just hope that I don't fizzle. I don't see a special event point, so I don't even know. Oh, I've already got all my special event points. Good. We're good. And it does stun the other guy, so luckily we didn't even get hit on this stage, which is perfect. And then all you have to do is just follow up with a Frozen Kraken, and then he's just dead. If I was low, I could have healed, right? I could have, but I didn't need to, so we're good. So, like, there's a little bit of riskiness on stage 4 and 5 as like a new player. Like, obviously for me, if I'm doing this with my deck 10, this is just going to be a breeze, but for other people, it'll be a little bit more confusing because they don't know what cards they have in their deck. Specifically the mobs, right? Okay, so now we get to the final boss for stage 4 specifically. And this fight, we're going to be using Kraken this time around and using Frozen Kraken. So there's that. And also, you can debuff in this fight. So we'll be using a weakness. We will be keeping a fairy in our hand though. We're gonna pull a Kraken real quick. There we go. So I don't have to debuff right now because he has 3 pips. So I'm just gonna play the risk and pass. Like, yes, he could have used Cyclops, but that's okay. I'm more worried about him getting close to pips to be able to specifically use Minotaur. But now we can use our debuff. So we got that. I did get stunned, but keep in mind, that gives him a chance to gain pips as well. So look, now that he's at 5 pips, I can't do anything right here, right? And it's unfortunate. So what we just do right here is just pass, and if he hits us with the minnow, he hits us with the minnow. Luckily, it's a troll, but it's still very annoying because if he does get a power pip, he still has the opportunity to use a minnow. The minnow is like the scary thing that you have to worry about. And look, he didn't get a power pip, so hopefully I don't fizzle now, right? But ideally, you're just gonna be using Kraken and Frozen Kraken on this specific fight. Yep, this is 700, and then plus the Frozen Kraken, another 500, and that just kills him. And yes, I'm a little bit lower on HP, but we do have the next fight. So there you go, stage 4 complete. And remember, as always, talk to the vendor, and you can get yourself your next deck, and make sure you buy it. The housing items, that's up to you. And then the treasure cards, like I said, this one's up to you as well. You don't have to buy them. It's just realistically up to you. But the decks are the main thing that you're buying after every stage completion, if you don't already have them unlocked. If you already buy them once, you don't have to come back and you always just keep buying them. You can just keep farming. So there's that. And just remember, if you need to, feed your pet every so often, because you want to make sure you have your happiness levels up, because you don't want to go into a fight where your happiness levels on your pet is low and you can't use Frozen Kraken. So that's like another thing you have to keep in mind. Okay, so now we're on stage 5, which is the ending portion of this video, but it's still like a long ending, right? We are going to be using weakness in this fight. You do have to keep in mind that in stage 5, the only hits that they realistically use now is Cyclops and Minotaur. So Troll is no longer a hit that they have. They should still have stuns, but weakness is preferred here in most of your scenarios. So we're going to try to pull for a weakness real quick. We don't need Stormlord, don't need the shield, don't need the fairy. There we go, we got a weakness. And then is he buffing from what it seems like? Oh no, he used Cleanse Word. Okay, so we don't need a weakness again, but we are going to be using Zilla in this fight. But since he already has a weakness on him, I don't have to debuff him. I can just pass. I could shield, yes, but you want to save these shields for the next fight, because the next fight is where you're like possibly at a chance of dying. So keep that in mind as well. I mean, luckily he didn't hit. I'm not complaining, but there's still a possible chance we can still die. So we are going to use We'll cast Frozen Kraken and Zilla and just hope that we don't fizzle our Zilla. There we go. So we're going into the next fight with like close to around 1000 HP, which is good, but as I stated, this stage, the specific middle stage, is going to be quite annoying. That's just the thing with Deckathalon. I've done it so many times and I'm just like, it's very iffy. It's very iffy. Like once you get the decks, you know, it makes it a little bit more of a breeze, but still like doing it as your first time completion and just trying to farm the runes, very annoying. So now we have these two mobs, right? But if you look at our deck, this is all we have. So essentially in this fight, you're relying on your shield, you're relying on your Stormzilla. You are going to be using Will Cast Frozen Kraken on both of them, and that does kill. You do have a fairy, so if you do feel like you're in an uncomfy position, you can. You don't want to use your weakness too much in this fight, because if you guys saw, I already burned through almost all my weaknesses. So I want to try to save this weakness for the next fight, because it'll be the last fight. So there's that. But ideally just shield spam into Stormlord. That's all you're doing. And at the same time, is you got to play the risk of stuns, you got to play the risk of Minotaur. If they use Cyclops, that's good. But if they use both of them use Minnow, you're more often than dead. Now, if I had like my deck 10 in this fight, it would be a breeze. But if you look at their pips, it is a high chance of me dying in this fight. It's a very high chance. And you also have to play the risk of your pet even healing you. If, for example, the left guy uses Minnow and the right guy uses Minnow, yes, the Minnow will get rid of both of my shields, but I'm wide open for the right guy. And if my pet doesn't heal, I'm kind of just cooked. Now, this is where, like, ideally, if you had the ability to do, and you already have V-Plagues would make this fight drastically easier. But the reason why I don't include it in these guides is because they're not sold from a vendor. And getting them in the bazaar is always tough around Decathlon because everyone tends to buy them. So that is like another thing. But since I'm stunned, right, I can't use Frozen Kraken on either. If I show you, it shouldn't work from my knowledge, but I'm stunned anyways, right? Ideally, I would shield again, but I can't. I'm stunned. So see right here, can't do Frozen Kraken. Okay, I'm stunned. But he didn't hit. Didn't hit. We're not complaining. But we can use our Stormlord as well. So ideally, we want to kill. It doesn't matter who you kill. It just depends on who has what buffs. So I'm just gonna hit the right. We'll hit the right one. Actually, no, we'll hit the left one. The left one's more annoying because of how many pips he has. So we'll do that, and then we'll also use Stormlord. You could shield right now. I could, but this should just kill one of them right off the rip if I don't fizzle. Right, that's always a risk that you have to play. I didn't fizzle. That's good. And on top of that, the guy on the right is stunned. Yeah, they're both stunned. So, but the Frozen Kraken kills the left one, so it's not an issue. But we got very lucky in our run. They could have definitely double minnowed, and we would have been dead. Like I said though, you could carry V-Plague specifically for this fight, but keep in mind, the bazaar is most likely going to be empty, and trying to get V-Plagues is very annoying. Like sometimes I even farm bosses for V-Plagues. But I try to, when it comes to these videos, use only vendor TC because of the fact is I know not everyone has the ability to like stare at the bazaar 24/7. So if you do have V-Plagues, carry it for this fight. Highly recommend. But I already have 2 shields on me, right? If he does minnow, it's not the worst thing in the world. I could weakness, but like I said, I'm saving that weakness for the next fight. I don't have pips, and I'm kind of just like off-centered a bit because the fact is that I did get stunned. But we are going to shield again, specifically because of next round. And I can't use anything yet because the fact is, since I was stunned, I used my Frozen Kraken a round later than normal. So for that specific reason, I can't use Frozen Kraken right now. You could heal if you need to, right? If I really wanted to, I can heal. I still have a fairy for next fight. So that is something I can do. But I'd rather have him hit me and lose some health and then heal it off. So I'm just going to pass. He's not going to kill me, even with being so heavily buffed. I realistically shouldn't die to this. And if I die to this, that is insane, but I shouldn't. 65, still does a lot. Yeah, not bad. But that's because we had shields though. That's literally because we had shields. And since my pet healed me, I don't need to use fairy. I can just use Frozen Kraken and that just kills. I don't need a shield, I don't need to do anything, and I'm running into the next fight with a lot of cards to keep at my hand. So that is something very nice. So just use your Frozen Kraken, pass, and you beat the hardest stage for at least this portion of the video, where it's just 1 through 5. Of course the other stages are way harder, but I'm only going to be making 1 through 5 videos at the moment. There you go. And then we move on to the final boss of stage 5 at least. And this is where that weakness comes in hand. Just that one extra weakness that I kept. Literally round 1, just gonna use it. And if you want to, you can even shield in here. You can literally shield if you feel like it. I have so much excess cards right now from playing pretty well in my fights. So we are just gonna shield. Now depending on if you use some of your extra cards, you might not even have the shields. But since I'm in a situation where I can shield, I'm just going to shield, right? And it depends on how many cards you have left over, because there were times where I should have shielded, but I got stunned, stuff like that. You just run the risk of that. So we'll just use Frozen Kraken now, and then I'm just going to shield again. But like I said, you might not have the ability to shield right now, because if you use your shields early on, if you felt like you were in a comfy position and you needed to shield, you could have, but it's okay though. We'll use our shield for now, and then I'm kind of just protected from a Minotaur, right? Even though he has a blade, he has a weakness, and I'm double shielded. So if he does use a Minotaur, it's not a big deal. And he did a Minotaur, so he's just gonna blade. And then we have our Triton, and that should just kill, and that's it. That's all this fight is. Like if he did use Minotaur, that weakness would have been so good. Same thing with the shields. You would have at least like one shield left over. And stuff like that, but since I had extra shields as well from me being stunned, I did have some leftover shields that I could have used in this fight. So there's that. Now I do have some extra cards, right? I do have some fairies left over, I do have some shields over. You could theoretically continue and do stage 6.1 Would I recommend it? Not so much, just because of how long that fight is, and you will be using your will cast about 3 times, and that's not gonna kill unless you carry an extra hit. So there's that. But make sure you talk to Kara, buy your deck 5 if you haven't, and just keep farming stages 1 through 5, and you should be able to get a 2-pip deck pretty efficiently. But it's up to you if you want to do Deckathalon. There's also Dryads. You can buy this if you want to. Dryads are kind of annoying to get sometimes, so you can get that. Krakens, I don't recommend buying. Those are just from a vendor. And then Essos and Storm. It's an elixir you can use to craft with runes. If you want it, get it. That's just not for me, but I'll buy it just for the purpose of the video. So there's that. But main thing is you're just getting your deck 5. And then after that, you can just walk out. Because I'm not going to do stage 6.1. I just don't have the resources to do so. And then if we check our points for Deckathalon, we got around 76 points. Now keep in mind 20 of those points are from using treasure card in combat, which is like a daily point thing. So still solid amount of points, and you can get some rewards from here. This will give you, I believe, some treasure cards. It'll also give you your first Decathalete deck. And then I believe that's the power claw, and then some runes, which are just nice to have. But eventually you want to aim for this, so you can have your myth hamster. It will give you your spirit shield, it will give you a blade, it will give you a sharpened blade as well. And then of course you do want to aim for the Deckathalete deck, which is specifically deck 5. So if we go over here, I believe it's this one. You want to aim for this because it has 2 pips. If you want to go further beyond, you can go for stage 6 or deck 6, 7, and 8. And then 9, of course, and I think I have like deck 10 somewhere right here. Yeah, deck 10, which will give you 10% damage and a tier square and triangle socket. So that is up to you. Now that is it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed the whole, I guess, guide of me doing commentary throughout the entire runs. Hopefully you get a better understanding of how to farm stages 1 through 5. Make sure you guys get yourself a Deckathalon deck. Doesn't matter what Deckathalon deck, but since it's Deckathalon at the moment, that's why I'm recording this. And you're probably wondering how to farm these stages. It's a perfect example of how to do so. So hopefully you get yourself a deck 5. I highly recommend that you get yourself a deck 5. And yeah, there's also the hamster too, of course, if you want to get the hamster, which is on here, which we can quickly go over. These hamsters are exclusive. You can't hatch for them. So if you just keep doing Deckathalon every day and do your 3 runs, you can get yourself this myth hamster. As I stated, you can't hatch for it. It's exclusive, but it does come with a sharpened blade and a blade for your own school. So do so. It's a very good pet. And yeah, but that is it. Leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. Join Discord if you guys haven't. And that's about it. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.